At the base of Mount Fuji lies a forest so dense, so quiet, that compasses fail to work. The trees grow so thick that even at noon, darkness fills the spaces between them. The Japanese call it Jukai, the sea of trees. But the rest of the world knows it by another name, the suicide forest. Every year, officials find dozens of bodies among the ancient trees. But the forest's dark reputation didn't happen by accident. This is the story of Aokigahara. Welcome to Dark Chronicles. I'm your guide through history's darkest places and deepest mysteries. Today, we're exploring Aokigahara Forest, a location that has become synonymous with tragedy and the ultimate destination for those seeking to end their lives. But this forest story is more complex than headlines suggest. It's a place of natural beauty, geological wonder, and profound sadness. A place where modern tragedy intersects with ancient legends. Understanding Aokigahara means understanding something deeper about human despair and cultural attitudes toward death. Aokigahara Forest covers approximately 14 square miles at the northwest base of Mount Fuji, Japan's most iconic mountain. The forest sits on top of hardened lava from Mount Fuji's last major eruption in 864 AD. This volcanic rock base creates a landscape unlike any other forest in the world. The lava rocks beneath are porous and jagged, creating a terrain that's difficult to navigate. Roots twist over and around the rocks in grotesque formations. The trees, primarily Japanese cypress and hemlock, grow so densely that they block wind and muffle sound. Walk just a few hundred feet into Aokigahara, and the silence becomes oppressive. No birdsong, no rustling leaves, just silence. This unusual quiet happens because the dense canopy and volcanic rock absorb and deflect sound waves. The forest floor is covered in moss, so thick it cushions every footstep. Hikers describe feeling isolated even when they're not far from the trails. The darkness is equally unnatural. Even on sunny days, only filtered green light penetrates the canopy. It's easy to lose your sense of direction. Compasses often malfunction here, a phenomenon caused by the magnetic iron deposits in the volcanic rock below. This has led to legends about the forest being cursed or haunted by demons. In reality, it's just geology, but the effect is undeniably eerie. Modern GPS works fine, but the folklore persists. The Japanese government has marked official trails with colored tape and signs. Stay on these paths, and Aokigahara is a beautiful, if unusually quiet, hiking destination. The ice caves and wind cave are popular tourist attractions. Thousands visit annually to experience the unique ecosystem. But venture off the trails, and the forest changes. Personal belongings scattered on the forest floor, abandoned tents, lengths of rope, and sometimes the worst discoveries imaginable. This is where Aokigahara's dark reputation comes from, not from legends or curses, but from a very modern tragedy. Aokigahara's association with death isn't new, but the modern phenomenon is. In Japanese mythology, the forest was believed to be haunted by yurei, angry spirits of the dead. According to legend, during times of famine, families would practice ubasute, abandoning elderly relatives in remote places to die when they could no longer feed them. Aokigahara was said to be one such place. While historians debate whether ubasute was ever widely practiced, the legend attached itself to the forest. But the modern crisis began in 1960 with the publication of a novel called Tower of Waves by Seicho Matsumoto. In this best-selling book, two lovers travel to Aokigahara to end their lives together. The novel romanticized the forest as a destination for those wanting to die. Then, in 1993, another book compounded the problem, The Complete Manual of Suicide by Wataru Tsurumi. This controversial publication described various methods of suicide and specifically recommended Aokigahara as an ideal location. Following these publications, suicides in the forest increased dramatically. By the 2000s, Aokigahara had gained international notoriety. Japanese authorities stopped publishing the exact number of bodies found each year, hoping to avoid turning the statistics into a macabre competition or milestone. But estimates suggest 50 to 100 bodies are discovered annually. Why do people choose this specific forest? Several factors converge. First, cultural context. Japan has a complex relationship with suicide that differs from Western perspectives. Historically, certain forms of suicide were seen as honorable, seppuku by samurai, kamikaze pilots in World War II. While Japan absolutely works to prevent suicide, cultural echoes remain. Second, the forest offers isolation. It's vast enough that someone could disappear for months or even years. The density provides privacy. Third, the location's notoriety creates a self-reinforcing cycle. The more famous it becomes as a suicide destination, the more it attracts those seeking to end their lives. The Japanese government and volunteers have responded. Signs at the forest entrance plead, "Your life is a precious gift from your parents. Please think about your parents, siblings, and children. Don't keep it to yourself. Talk about your troubles." Phone numbers for suicide prevention hotlines are listed. Volunteers patrol the forest, trained to approach and talk to anyone who appears distressed. But despite these efforts, the tragedies continue. Aokigahara has become what some call a suicide magnet, a location whose reputation attracts the very behavior authorities tried to prevent. Every year, Japanese authorities conduct official searches of Aokigahara. These are not publicized, and for good reason. The goal is recovery, not publicity. Teams of police, volunteers, and forestry workers systematically sweep sections of the forest off the main trails. What they find is heartbreaking. Bodies in various states of decomposition. Some discoveries are recent, within days or weeks. Others have been there for months or even years, hidden by the dense undergrowth. Personal belongings are cataloged. Identification cards, farewell notes, photographs, medications, empty bottles. The forest workers who conduct these searches describe it as emotionally devastating work. One longtime forestry worker, in an interview, said, "I've seen hundreds of bodies. Each one represents a life, a family, a story. It never gets easier." Many of these workers receive counseling to cope with what they witness. The bodies and belongings are treated with respect. In Japanese culture, proper treatment of the dead is paramount. Each discovery is documented, authorities attempt to identify the individual, and families are notified. Unclaimed remains are given Buddhist funeral rites. But there are also survival stories. Volunteer patrols have encountered individuals who were in the forest contemplating suicide but hadn't yet acted. In these encounters, trained volunteers engage in conversation, offering support and encouraging the person to reconsider. Some accept help and leave the forest. These interventions have undoubtedly saved lives. One volunteer organization, founded by a former suicide survivor, specifically patrols Aokigahara. They've pulled dozens of people back from the edge, literally and figuratively. Their approach is non-judgmental and compassionate. They understand that people in that state of mind need empathy, not lectures. The Japanese self-defense forces also conduct training exercises in Aokigahara, partly to familiarize troops with difficult terrain, but also as a form of public service. During these exercises, they report any discoveries to authorities. But despite all these efforts, the forest is vast, and not every area can be monitored. The reality is that some who enter Aokigahara with the intention of ending their lives will succeed, and the forest, silent and indifferent, will keep their final moments secret. Given its reputation, It's perhaps inevitable that Aokigahara has attracted paranormal investigators and ghost hunters. Stories circulate online about supernatural experiences in the forest, mysterious voices, apparitions, feelings of being watched, and even claims that spirits try to lure visitors off the trails. Some visitors report overwhelming feelings of sadness or dread that disappeared the moment they leave the forest. Others describe their cameras or electronic devices malfunctioning, though this could easily be explained by the moisture and the magnetic properties of the volcanic rock. One persistent legend involves Yude, the angry spirits mentioned earlier. According to belief, those who die by suicide in Aokigahara are doomed to remain as earthbound spirits, forever trapped and suffering. Some claim these spirits influence others, drawing them into the forest. It's a troubling belief that potentially romanticizes or mystifies what is, at its core, a mental health crisis. Japanese spiritualist traditions include rituals to pacify troubled spirits. Buddhist monks have conducted ceremonies in Aokigahara, blessing the forest and praying for the souls of those who died there. Whether these rituals have supernatural effect is a matter of belief, but they serve an important psychological and cultural function, acknowledging the tragedy and showing respect for the dead. However, it's crucial to separate folklore from fact. The real haunting of Aokigahara isn't supernatural. It's the haunting presence of human suffering. The forest isn't cursed by demons. It's marked by desperation, depression, and the failures of mental health support systems. Paranormal tourism to Aokigahara is generally frowned upon in Japan. It's seen as disrespectful to the dead and to the families who've lost loved ones. The forest isn't a theme park or a ghost tour destination. It's a place where real people made the final decision of their lives. That deserves reverence, not sensationalism. That said, understanding the legends and folklore helps us understand how Aokigahara became culturally embedded as a place of death. Stories have power, and in this case, stories have contributed to real-world tragedy. Aokigahara is a symptom, not a cause. Japan has one of the highest suicide rates among developed nations. Cultural factors play a role. Intense work pressure, social stigma around mental illness, and traditional values that emphasize honor and shame. Seeking mental health treatment has historically been viewed as weakness or bringing shame to one's family. The Japanese term karoshi, death from overwork, reflects cultural attitudes toward labor and sacrifice. Another term, hikikomori, describes young people who withdraw completely from society, often staying in their rooms for months or years. These social phenomena contribute to a mental health crisis that manifests in places like Aokigahara. The Japanese government has implemented suicide prevention programs, including hotlines, public awareness campaigns, and increased funding for mental health services. There have been improvements. Overall, suicide rates in Japan have declined from their peak in 2003, but the numbers remain troublingly high. Aokigahara forces a confrontation with uncomfortable questions. How do societies fail individuals to the point where death seems preferable to life? What cultural attitudes or economic systems create such despair? How can we identify and help those in crisis before they reach the point of no return? There are no simple answers, but the existence of places like Aokigahara demands that we ask these questions. It demands that we examine our own communities and ask, who is suffering in silence? Who feels they have no other option? Every person found in that forest had a story. They had hopes and dreams once. They had families and friends. Something happened, a cascade of circumstances, mental illness, overwhelming pressure, or profound loss that led them to those dark trees. The tragedy of Aokigahara isn't supernatural. It's deeply, painfully human. And that makes it far more haunting than any ghost story ever could be. Aokigahara Forest is a place of contradictions. It's naturally beautiful and eerily quiet. It's a popular hiking destination and the site of immense tragedy. It's both a real location and a symbol of the mental health challenges that affect every nation, not just Japan. If this video has affected you, please know that help is available. The resources listed in the description include international suicide prevention hotlines. You are not alone. Your life has value. There are people who want to help. For those who work to prevent these tragedies, the volunteers who patrol the forest, the mental health professionals who answer crisis calls, the families who've lost loved ones but channel their grief into advocacy, thank you. Your work saves lives. Aokigahara will likely always carry its dark reputation, but perhaps by understanding it better, by confronting the reality of what it represents, we can work toward a world where fewer people feel that a forest is their only option. Thank you for watching. Take care of yourself and each other.